This is the Sons of UCF podcast, your place for UCF sports talk year-round. Now, here is Adam and Mike.
All right, here we go. 117th edition of the Sons of UCF is back, and maybe even better than ever. That depends on who calls in later on, but we will get to all that in just a moment. First off, I am Adam, and as always, UCF Mike has joined me again for another exciting installment of the show. Mike, welcome back in, my friend. How are you doing?
Yes, sir. I'm doing very good, man. Thanks. I was about to thank you again for having me on the show.
I know you were. I know it's an honor and a privilege. I know many have told us that, and by many I mean pretty much nobody. Hey, so on the show, we've got a little conundrum that we're going to talk about at the end of the show. If you've been listening for a number of episodes, you know that we do the Cow of the Week, and a certain voice leads you into Cow of the Week. We're going to have to retire that, and we're going to need a replacement. We'll get to all that. Interviews, you never know what you're going to get when the interview segment rolls around, so you're going to want to stick around and hear whose voice appears at that moment. At this point, heck, even Mike and I don't even know who that's going to be, so if we don't know, then you must be really excited on your end. Maybe there's a game or two in our future, who knows. Obviously, we'll start off with some headlines, Mike, and I guess the biggest headline, we did the Sons of UCF live show on Thursday with the one and the only Trey Strelko. And the topic of conversation was the breaking news of that day, which was that our athletic director and vice president, Mr. Danny White, has taken his talents to Knoxville and has left UCF for oranger pastures, I guess I'll say, Mike. You've had a weekend to kind of let it all sink in. You've had some time to let it all sort of hit you. I know what your reaction was the night of. How are you feeling here a few days later when you've had some time to really consider this?
You know, I've gone through all stages, I think, of, I don't know if you want to call it depression, but I've gotten to the place where I've accepted it now. At first, I was in a little bit of shock when I heard the news. Last week on this show, we talked about the possibility of Danny White leaving, and I threw it out there saying that it would be a huge blow to the program if it happened. I didn't expect it to happen. You said you didn't think it would happen at Tennessee.
Yep.
It was going to happen.
Yes, sir, that was me.
It would be a place maybe like Duke to take over where his dad was, or, you know, a place like Notre Dame, his alma mater, if it ever opened up, something like that. But here we go. He's out of here, and Tennessee it is. And so at first I was in shock. Then I was a little bit, I wouldn't say I was ever angry about it. I kind of, like I said, I expected it to happen one day. So then I got over the shock of it. And then the more I thought about it, it was thankful for what he did. He had a good run, 5 years. Wish it could have been longer. But at the same time, you know, he's just one guy in this program's history, and he did a great job with it. And everybody's put him on this pedestal for the last 5 years. And I guess rightly so. He did a great job with the national championship thing and getting our name out there to the public. But in the end, he's just one person that has had a part in this program. This program's been building for a long time. It was around a long time before he got here, and it's going to continue a long time after he's gone now. So I'm thankful for what he did. It's not the end of the world, and now I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, I think a lot of the feelings come from the fact that when he got here in 2015, I mean, we were bleak. We were just on the struggle bus, and there was just nowhere for us to find hope at that point. Things were just so bad. And, he obviously built us up to heights, and not just in football. I know football dominates the conversation, but not just football. I mean, we talked about this last week, Mike, all the different sports that have had success. I think at one point in time, we've had so many different sports ranked in the top 25. We've got programs now that are continually battling deep into the conference championship season. And Danny's mission, I think, when he got here was he wanted to build a top 25 athletics program, not just a top 25 football program or basketball program, but an athletics program. And, I would say check the box that he got pretty darn close to doing that if he didn't accomplish that. But the more I thought about it over the weekend, I think it's interesting. It kind of boils down to, did he really just see the writing on the wall and kind of say to himself, I've taken this thing as far as I can take it. And if there's an opportunity for me to move on, and they're gonna bump my pay like 60% or something ridiculous like that, is that the right time to take that opportunity? I think maybe Danny felt he could accomplish all he could accomplish here, and he's getting a great opportunity to go to a school. Now, I don't know that I buy the whole like he can't wait to rebuild something deal. I think the pay bump probably helps it. And so you can't tell me that he wouldn't have taken a job at Duke if they offered him a job too. But, he said he wants to build things. That's kind of what he is. And that's what he sees in Tennessee right now. So I guess you think about it and you say maybe he realized or thought he hit a ceiling and needed to make a change. And yeah, at that point you can do nothing but just tip your hat to the guy, be grateful that he was here, what he offered, and then look towards the future and just wonder, what's next and how we build on the next phase of UCF athletics.
He's built a reputation now as kind of being like a builder or a rebuilder of programs. What he did in Buffalo, what he did here after you mentioned where we were at the point in 2015 to kind of build us back up. And now Tennessee's going through problems right now. They're going through some sanctions and stuff, and he sees an opportunity to build them back up. Tennessee was a pretty prestigious program. When we were in college, going back to the Peyton Manning days, Tennessee football was pretty damn good for a while there. Even with T. Martin and Phil Fulmer and all those guys. So there's potential as a big SEC program. I could see the lure for him going there. And financially, you have to think he's like a kid in a candy store now, where here at UCF, he had to, wine and dine these guys, all these shareholders, and scratch to get as much money as he could and maybe pile together $2-5 million over the last couple of years, which is great for us. But SEC money, those guys wipe their asses with that kind of money. Basically, he's going to make more in 1 year of a TV deal for football than he made in all 5 years combined here. And I don't even think it's close. So he's going to have so much money to spend and do whatever he wants with. Hire the coaches he wants, build the facilities that he wants, pretty much take over a big-time SEC school, and he has the opportunity and he jumped at it. And I don't know how long he's been thinking about it. People say that maybe the last couple of years he's explored opportunities, and this one was the most intriguing one to him. I guess we can say that's the case. But also, how much does the budget here at UCF factor into it? This whole COVID situation that we've been going through for the last year now really hit our athletics department hard. And he knows what the books look like, and he knows what we're looking at going into next year. And maybe that played a big factor in it, seeing that, hey, it may take another couple of years to get back to where we were. And he might as well leave now while he's still on a high note and people are still looking at him positively. Whereas maybe in a couple of years, he may have had to take a step back here.
Yeah, that's the only thing. If you want to talk about, you said angry or mad. If there's any of those emotions, the only thing I felt was just, he kind of walked away when we were, at a point where there's kind of a rebuilding piece. And I don't mean rebuilding in the sense of like sports programs, but to your point, things are kind of really unknown right now with financials, with COVID, with everything. This is probably, outside of the initial phase. This is about to be another hard ride in the roller coaster. And one that, if Danny says he's up for a challenge, well, this would have been a challenge, Mike. How do you replace income at a school like UCF where you don't have a great TV deal and we don't have all this stuff coming in, and the shareholder society is trying, and he tried to get to $2 million. So if he really wanted to be a builder and take on a challenge, he had one facing him right now. Every athletic director does. So that's the only thing you look at and go, wait a minute. Well, really, Chief, you had a challenge in front of you. But I also see there's probably other challenges outside of just the financial piece that he gets at Tennessee. When we had Chris Vanini on the live show, he mentioned that he had heard Danny's name had popped up for the Georgia opening. He didn't offer more specifics. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means Danny reached out. So they reached out to Danny. I don't know how all that works, but I think it's probably something we all just knew about and just kind of swept under the rug and just kind of hope never happened that Danny's name was out there for these kind of things. But it's interesting that you bring up the budget piece, and here's where my mind went. And obviously, I don't doubt Danny's intellect or his passion or his creativity or even his work ethic or even his intelligence. But part of you wonders if a guy like Danny White was successful at a school like a UCF because he really had to be resourceful and be scrappy because he couldn't afford to make mistakes. So he couldn't afford to go out. And even though we always heard the rumors of Greg Schiano and Kevin Sumlin, he couldn't go out and hire that big name coach at a big contract because that would have set the program back. So instead he finds these guys like a Scott Frost or a Josh Heupel who didn't have head coaching experience, and he got them on the cheap, quote unquote, and was able to have them come here and have success. And so part of you wonders if Danny's makeup or success wasn't the fact that he had to do things a little different. He couldn't do what everybody else was doing because he didn't have that money. So he had to be unique. He had to think outside the box. And did that make him successful because he had to do all those things? And now that you have all the money in the world, will he then kind of get away from his roots of kind of what made him successful? And will Tennessee accept him if he goes out and goes, hey, guess what, guys? I found the best offensive coordinator in the world to come be your head coach. We were like, okay, cool, we'll take it. SEC fans aren't going to have that. So part of me just wonders if that'll work. Again, I don't doubt Danny, but you got to wonder if he was successful because he had to be a little bit different, because he had no margin for error at UCF, and that forced him to be outside the box. And, will he change that strategy, or will that strategy still work at a big-time program with all those expectations like you have there in Tennessee?
And part of it has to be luck. I think in anything, yeah, he's good at hiring coaches. He has a good proven track record, but some of it is luck too. I mean, he struck gold with Scott Frost. Scott Frost came in, turned a winless team into an undefeated team in 2 years. He couldn't even have imagined that when he hired him. And now you're seeing people calling for Heupel's job, and Heupel was his next hire in football. So in a lot of people's eyes, maybe he's 50% in hiring football coaches. And he's hired coaches in other sports and done very well. So that had to be a big factor for Tennessee when they were searching for him. And now they figured they're going to make his job even easier, even though you're saying maybe that's what made him great, was not having the money. But they probably figured, hey, we give this guy an unlimited budget. He can hire the best coach out there, and he'll find the best coach out there. That's got to be their thinking. And I can see already on Tennessee message boards, they're not thrilled with his philosophy. Because as we know, he's very secretive. So when he hired Frost and he hired Heupel, nobody had those names even on the list of coaches we were going after. You mentioned Sumlin and who's the Syracuse guy?
Dino
Babers.
Yep.
Or however you say his name. And those were guys we thought we were going to hire. And people thought for sure they were done deals. And he comes out with Scott Frost out of nowhere, and Josh Heupel came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So maybe he's pulling the same thing in Tennessee, and they may not react to it as well as we did. Well, it may be what's best for their program.
Well, that's the thing is Danny, once he got here, we obviously were all in, right? Because new uniforms, he's got this coach who's going to do this new fast offense. He initially kind of won us over because we were at such a low point, and expectations were, I guess, even though fans always have high expectations, we were low at that point. Tennessee, I don't care what your record was the year before, they got expectations. And so we basically any pen stroke Danny made, we were just like, great, that's awesome. I think it's going to be a whole different set of pressures and circumstances at Tennessee. But you're right. I think the message boards are freaking out over his coaching, and I saw that on our message board, and it's almost like reminding everybody that of the coaching hires Danny made, it was never anybody on that list. So they're talking about PJ Fleck and James Franklin and. And then there's the Tony Elliott offensive coordinator at Clemson, and people are like, no, that's not it. It's probably going to be a name that none of us even thought of. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's not a name that's surprising or shocking, right? Somebody that we wouldn't anticipate. So overall, Tennessee obviously getting a really good athletic director, and leaves a huge, void at UCF, which is currently being filled right now, Mike. We learned by the interim athletic director, a good friend of yours, a guy you've actually spoken to on numerous occasions, oddly enough. And we actually were talking about getting on the show one time, but we were like, why get him on the show? Really wish we'd done that, because he is now the interim AD. That is Scott Carr. And so Scott takes over for Danny on an interim basis. One has to think that he's potentially a candidate for the job as well down the road. But for right now, Scott Carr, Mike, your interim UCF athletics director.
I've met Scott Carr a couple of times at these coaches outings that they've done here in Fort Lauderdale. I got to say, probably the nicest guy I've ever met in my life on both occasions. Just a great guy. The first time I met him, it was the Scott Frost coaches tour down here, and I was just hanging out. And I had my two young daughters at the time. They were young. They were like 4 and 2 years, maybe 3 and 5, something like that, years old. And I was sitting there. He saw me sitting there with them, just hanging out, watching the show, and having some nachos. And he came over and started talking to me. And he related to me because he's got 2 young daughters too. They're a little bit older than mine. And we just started talking UCF, man. And was a great guy. You could see his energy for the program then. And then I met him again at the other coaches tour here a couple years ago, and I talked to him again for a few minutes. Just a great guy. You can tell that he's got his heart in the right spots, and he wants what's best for the program. And I'm sure, I hate to say it, he seems like he's so good that Danny White's going to come back and take him. And maybe he left him here as kind of a, just fill in for a little while, and I'll come back and get you kind of thing. I don't know.
Is this
I don't know this whole situation.
A Scott Frost, Troy Walter situation?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because maybe Danny didn't want to leave the cupboard completely bare. He left somebody here for a little while until they found a replacement. I hope that's not the case. I hope Scott Carr loves it here in Orlando and stays, and the new guy comes in, if there's a new guy, and keeps him on staff, and he continues to build here at UCF. But, I couldn't be happier for somebody else. I hope if he wants the job, I hope he gets a fair shot of taking it, because he's been in this program now for the last 5 years. He knows exactly what we've been doing, what projects we've been working on. So if anybody has an inside tip on where we were going, I guess it would be him.
Well, you got to think he's on the list, right? I mean, there's obviously there's all kind of rumors out there. I don't think anybody really knows the list. Mike Bianchi of the Orlando Sentinel was able to sit down for a brief conversation with UCF President Alexander Cartwright. All really Cartwright said was that UCF will hire a search firm. They're going to compile a diverse list of candidates and quote unquote move quickly to have a new AD in place within the next month or two. So I guess his definition of move quickly is way different than mine. And that essentially Scott Carr would be his interim, AD. In terms of what he's looking for, he said that he thinks this is one of the premier positions in the country, including some Power Fives. And so he obviously understands that Danny leaves a void, but his message essentially was, hey, we're going to be okay. It's next person up, I think he said. We've lost Danny, and now we bring in somebody else great and keep it moving forward. So, we'll see what Cartwright has up his sleeve, Mike. We have no idea what kind of a hirer of people he is. We have no clue what he'll be looking for. And so it'll be tough to tell, but obviously there are a lot of names out there, but Cartwright and the search firm looks like are hopefully beginning that process already.
Cartwright?
Every time I say his name, I think this. I do the same thing in my head too.
I know. Oh man. Yeah. Well, okay. The athletics program has been going up in the last 20 years, right? We've been building slowly. We've been moving up in conferences. We built an on-campus stadium, which when we were in school was just a pipe dream. We never thought it'd actually happen. We got that. We have a beautiful arena on campus. The athletics village altogether is fabulous. The whole section of the campus over there with the living quarters for the athletes and all the Garvey Nutrition Center, everything is right there. The practice fields, everything right there where they need it. The program is on the upswing. And that started before Danny White, and it's going to keep continuing. Maybe we had a little hiccup there with Tribble. But then even a guy like Stansberry came in and had the vision for the cabana in the stadium and improvements in the stadium. So we started that before Danny White, and Danny White took that to another level over the last few years. And the next guy's going to come in and continue the same thing and keep moving the program forward. Danny White, you mentioned, wanted this to be a top 25 athletic department, and he was on his way to doing it. He started doing that. But in the famous words of the White Horse himself, if all you want is top 25, I'm not interested. So, yes, the top 25 is nice for now, but this program deserves better. It deserves bigger. It deserves to be in a Power 5 conference. That is where the next AD needs to take us. And that whoever does that is going to be the guy. People are talking about building a statue for Danny White. I don't think he was here long enough to get one.
Yeah.
Now that he's gone 5 years, the next guy comes in and gets us into a P5 conference, and we start getting paid and treated with the respect of some of these other schools like Miami and Florida State and Florida, the teams in this state in these conferences. Then that guy will probably end up getting a statue.
I put a poll up on Twitter at the Suns UCF account and asked, now that the shock is wearing off, what do you think is the most important thing needed in UCF's next AD? And 34%, the winner was fundraising, followed closely by coaches hiring and firing at 24, creativity brand at 23, in stature and influence at 19, Mike. So that's what at least the fans outside there are looking for. And we've seen some names. I'll run through some quickly for those who haven't heard him. Ren Baker is at North Texas. One of his claim to fames is record-setting fundraising that took place in North Texas, and they've been upgrading their facilities. We mentioned Scott Carr. He was in coordinating brand advancement and communications. He was also involved in the revenue generation. Somebody named Mike Hill. He's at Charlotte right now. He spent 25 years in the state of Florida working at UF's department. Zach Lassiter used to work at UCF. He spent 3 years there under Todd Stansberry. Brian Maggard, he's at Louisville. He's had several big coaching hires, Billy Napier among those, and a bunch of other names. Brian White, Danny's younger brother, who's obviously down at FAU. Eric Wood, who was at UCF up until about 5 months ago. He's now the AD at Louisiana Tech. And then there's Mark Wright, also a deputy AD at UCF. He's been in charge on fundraising for the last couple of years, since 2013. So some internal candidates, Mike, a couple of guys with some Missouri ties, but you kind of see the gamut there, right? One guy has a reputation for fundraising. One guy has a reputation for coaches and an eye for coaches. A couple of guys have an eye for revenue, and so there's a few different options in front of us, Mike. Well, obviously we have no idea which way things are leaning, but those are at least the candidates, the names that we're all hearing about right now.
I think right now the fundraising is probably just a notch above the hiring of the coaches, because we don't have any coaching openings right now. As far as we know, Josh Heupel is still the head coach. Johnny Dawkins is still the head coach.
As far as we know, right.
So if Heupel comes in and has a good year next year and gets us back to the conference championship game, nobody's going to want to fire him again after that year. So right now, fundraising and managing this budget, which none of us know what it looks like right now after this COVID year, that's got to be the important thing. Getting the program back on its feet financially and getting us back into the right direction. Hopefully, once this COVID stuff starts clearing up, the vaccine starts going around, and we're able to fill the stadiums again, we can start making some money and get this program back to where it should be and where we were on track to be before the whole thing hit. But what do you think is the most – how would you answer that question? You think hiring the coaches – because you need the money to hire the coaches, but the coaches are the ones that get you the wins, that get you people to donate the money. So I don't know where you start with that.
Yeah, you just confused me. I voted on my own poll. I voted fundraising as well. Because I listen, there certainly has something to be said for people who hire great coaches, but you said it earlier, some of it's just luck too, right? I mean, sometimes you just luck out on a guy who, just is the right fit at the right time for the right team. We've seen this over and over again, Mike, where there's a good coach and then he gets fired, another coach comes in, and sometimes that coach is successful and sometimes you think it's a great fit and they're terrible. And so some of that's just luck. It's just their DNA, their makeup. College, I think, is so much tougher because unlike the pros, your team turns over basically every 2-3 years. So you've got a new set of personalities coming in every time. If you have a new system, then you're trying to recruit kids who with your system. It's not like the pros where you can just release a guy or trade a guy. So I think college is so much more difficult. But without the money, you can't attract any of that stuff. So I think fundraising is the key if we want to continue to build the program and to find keep up with the Joneses, quote unquote, if you will, and make sure we have great facilities. I go fundraising and then I go coaching second.
Yeah, luck, I think, plays a big part of it because by some accounts, Frost was not his first pick and Heupel was not his first pick. And those guys kind of just fell into his lap. So who knows where the program would have gone if he hired Greg Schiano or if he hired one of the other guys that were on those lists. Fundraising is probably the most important thing. And when we did our live show on Thursday night, we asked Vanini that question, and he says the same thing. As a G5 school, where you're not getting the money from the TV contracts like some of these other schools, you got to find a way to bring in your own revenue, and fundraising is the way to do that. So hopefully we get another charismatic guy that can go out there and woo these shareholders and bring in as much money as possible. And I don't know, do we need a young guy like Danny White, or are we looking for a guy that has experience in one of these bigger conferences already?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. So if you look at that list of names, and again, these are just names that are out there in the media. We have no idea if they're accurate. there are two guys, and Scott Carr and Mark Wright, who are currently on the UCF athletic staff. So in theory, they have some of the same ideas, principles. They can kind of carry forth a lot of the same things that Danny's begun to build. They were there in the building, so they kind of know what things are and what things are coming up ahead and sort of where we are. So they have an inside track. They kind of know where we are, and they can kind of potentially, you hope, keep us on that same course. It would be akin to firing the head coach and promoting the offensive coordinator, right? There's a continuity from that perspective. Or do you want to go outside to somebody who's different, who's unique, who's doesn't have a horse in the race, so to speak, and bring that person in for some new ideas, some fresh perspectives, some different ventures or avenues to go down. I don't really know if there's a right answer there. What would you prefer? Would you prefer someone who kind of knows the UCF DNA, or do you want to bring somebody in and says, hey, teach us something different here, give us another idea, give us another strategy, so we can keep moving this thing forward?
The different strategies are going to be interesting because we know Danny White has set in stone that he was only doing these 1-for-1 deals with the P5 schools, and he was sticking with it. So now the new guy's going to come in. Is he going to stick to that same philosophy, or is he going to change things up? He's going to start scheduling these 2-for-1s. I wonder if Cartwright has an opinion on it. If Danny White has explained to him in the past why he did it that way, and maybe Cartwright agreed with him, maybe Cartwright didn't agree with him. And maybe that's going to factor into his decision on who he hires. I'm not sure. I think a young guy from a place where he's needed to raise money on his own, not in a big school where he was just fed money. Like you mentioned Louisville, the guy from Louisville. Well, Louisville has been cashing checks from the ACC now for a while. He may not have had to work as hard to get the money in fundraising the way a young guy like Danny White coming over from Buffalo had to do. So I think I may go with an up-and-comer, but then at the same time, when you do that, you risk that guy's going to be gone in 5 years. If he does his job and he does great, he's out of here. The same thing when we hire football coaches. Mm. When we hire Scott Frost and he comes in and he kicks ass for 2 years, he's gone. So that's the risk you run. Now, if you hire an older, experienced guy, maybe wants one last stop, someplace where he can come down to Florida and retire, have a nice 10, 15-year run, and that's it. And he's got the experience, then that's the other angle. That's the other way to go about it.
Do you want Danny's brother? A lot of people are just saying, hey, go down to Boca, hire Brian White, and let's just keep this train rolling. Do you think that'd be a good idea? Do you think it's something that either one of those guys would want for Brian to follow Danny? I know, Danny's talked about in the past about how he doesn't want to play his brother in basketball and some of that stuff, how much it hurt him to have to play his dad in the NCAA tournament when he was with Duke, his dad, that is. Brian White to UCF, is that a good idea? Is that something you'd support?
No, I don't really think it's a great idea. I don't think Brian White wants that headache either. He's just going to be compared to his brother. Every move he makes, every decision he makes, well, your brother did it this way. And we saw how he handled the football game last year when we played down at FAU. They had no clue what to do. And that's a stadium that holds, 30,000? And they were not prepared for an event like that. I don't see any good out of it other than it's the same name. What do you think? He's going to be calling Danny every week? And, hey, what should I do here? You think Danny's going to have time for that? He's going to have his own stuff at Tennessee. I see why people automatically jump to that because it's the same name, the same family, and that family has so much success in athletics all around college sports. But I don't think it's a good idea for Brian or for us.
I just want to remind everybody this. Brian White hired Willie Taggart. I mean, that might be all you need to know, folks. He brought the bus driver down there to Boca. Now, granted, it's probably a good hire for FAU. Don't get me wrong. But, I don't know where I fall on it. Sometimes I think about that same thing, right? You think about the job that you're at right now, your workplace, and your boss says, hey, I'm retiring, I'm leaving, I'm out of here. Naturally speaking, you know what? You'd probably say, hey, I want the next guy that I already know to become our boss. I don't want them to go outside and hire some guy I don't know. So I often think about that kind of stuff. Is you think about a guy like Scott Carr, like you said, a super nice guy. Mark Wright seems like a really good guy. Those guys have been working and learning under Danny's wing for the last, however many years. They've seen the program kind of build up. Do they just move down a chair and get a chance to run the big gig? Or, do you say, hey, let's bring somebody else in? It'll be fascinating to see where UCF goes with it. And it'll be fascinating to see what happens once we make that hire. Obviously, fundraising is one thing, Mike, but fundraising, you know what really helps fundraising? Winning. Yeah. So if we're not winning, fundraising is going to be quite a challenge. So obviously the football program, is kind of the bell cow of that, if you will. And things are hopefully pointing in the right direction for next year. But obviously we're coming off of 2 seasons that I think a lot of people are kind of left scratching their heads a little bit. Obviously there's questions, right, wrong, or indifferent with the coaching staff, Heupel, Shannon, all that stuff. So on the field stuff isn't exactly sewed up just yet either. It could certainly be, but you never really know. But also, Mike, one thing I do want to point out, I don't know if people remember this or not, Cincinnati, their athletic director left beginning of this year to take the job at USC. And obviously, they didn't miss a beat. So this kind of stuff happens all the time, right? ADs kind of move around. I'm not saying that we're Cincinnati, but it's just part of the business. It sucks when you're a G5 school. I think you said it earlier, is that you find a great coach, a great administrator, a great person, and all of a sudden other schools will look at them. But that's kind of the lot that we cast. But obviously, you know what, Danny did some tremendous things at UCF, and obviously, I don't know about a statue, if you will, but if there's some sort of a Ring of Honor situation, or we can, maybe hang up his tie somewhere in the bounce house, maybe we can do that. But again, you got to wonder if some of this stuff was set in motion too, Mike. The roof claim deal obviously hurt a ton. Dale Whitaker was a huge supporter of his. I know he knows Cartwright. They had a relationship, but another new boss. They had Thad Seymour in between 3 bosses in a short amount of time, and so maybe this was all writing on the wall, and we just didn't want to see it. But that day is here, friends, and I guess the brand will continue on, Mike. UCF, I think Eric DeSalvo said, "Charge on." That's what we do, and I guess that's what we'll continue to do.
You mentioned the brand. It's going to be interesting to see when the new guy comes in where he takes the brand itself. We know that Danny loved this Citronaut stuff and the Canaveral Blue and all this new stuff. The new guy coming in, is he going to expand on that? Are we going to be seeing more of the Citronaut? Are we going to be seeing less of it? Are we going to get rid of it? Are we going to go back to having more gold? A lot of things still yet to be seen. It's going to be interesting, and the fan reaction is going to be interesting. I wonder, you bring a guy in that has no ties to UCF and he's not in touch with the UCF fan base. If he comes in and makes some decisions that the fans may not like right away, that'll be funny to watch on Twitter and message boards.
It certainly will. Let's stay in football really quickly, and we'll take a quick break. The other news, I think there's 2 pieces of news that are interesting. So one, we'd surmised about the receivers coach. So it's now internet official. Cody Burns has changed his Twitter profile, Mike. He has changed his Twitter profile. He is no longer listed as the wide receivers coach at Oregon. He's now got one of those official UCF shield thingies on his Twitter profile. Again, no announcement from anybody on either he or Mike Merritt on the coaching staff, but it looks like Cody Burns is now officially the receivers coach. Mike, a young guy, played at Auburn, was a co-offensive coordinator there for a while. Obviously worked under the Malzahn system. His Instagram videos seems like he got a lot of energy. He's got a lot of charisma about him. So maybe a good recruiting tool. Who knows? But Cody Burns now, it's internet official, Mike, the receivers coach at UCF.
All right, that's exactly what it seems like we need. A good young guy that can come in, has got energy, and can recruit. And this guy seems like he's been able to do that so far at Auburn. Hopefully he can bring that over to Orlando and continue the same thing. Other than that, we don't know much about him. How much do you know about a wide receivers coach from some random school in the SEC? I don't know. And it's interesting to see. I'd like to hear where Heupel got his name from. Was he recommended to Heupel for somebody? Has he worked with Heupel before in some capacity? Heupel knows him from someplace? That I don't know.
Yeah. The only thing,
it's just word of mouth. I don't know.
It's also always hard to tell, position coaches and what impact they have. Like, what's the last big name receiver to come out of Auburn that you can think of?
Slayton from the Giants.
I mean, I said big name. That's who we got?
He's pretty good. He had a better first year than the second year, but he's still pretty good. I don't know how much of that had to do with Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
But he was pretty good. What other receivers?
I guess
from Auburn? I don't know.
My point is Auburn's not exactly wide receiver U, so and I don't know how much of that Cody Burns plays a role in, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see how he fits in Heupel's system, and again, if he can help us on the recruiting trail, and if now you're reading some stuff about Darryl Wyatt, the former receivers coach, and maybe he wasn't necessarily the best recruiter, and this top ace type recruiting guy, maybe that's an upgrade for us from that perspective. So we will see, Mike. And speaking of recruits, I know this question came to us a few weeks ago in our Sons of UCF Ask Us Anything mailbag situation. And the answer I don't think we had at the moment. We have now. UCF's now released the list of the early enrollees. So these are guys who got on campus and have begun, I guess, the conditioning programs, all that good stuff here in January. And we've got 2 tight ends, Nathan Borbroom, Charlie Browder, DB Chad Brown, defensive end Joker Gill, wide receiver Jalen Griffin, and Kadeen Robinson, and also Brandon Johnson, who transferred from Tennessee, oddly enough. We have Anthony Hundley, the D tackle, Cole Joyce, the linebacker, Trevion Sadrick Harris, who's a DB, Kadeem Leonard, who's a linebacker, and then last but not least, Mikey Keene, the quarterback, Mike. So looks like if my math is right, we got 12 kids, 12 players, maybe they're not kids, who've enrolled early, Mike, and are on campus beginning the program now, which is a pretty good number. That's one of the things that I think most coaches want, is they want these guys in there early and getting a full year before on the program, getting a whole semester before spring ball starts, and getting some time before fall camp. So 12 early enrollees for UCF.
Brandon Johnson was the player to be named later in the Danny White trade?
Yeah, apparently it was.
Yeah, it's always good to have these guys come in at this time and get the experience, get the full spring camp. That I think if you look at the numbers, I don't know what the numbers are. Maybe I'm just completely making this up. But of freshmen that make an impact their freshman year, I think most of those have been there early enrollees, people that are in the system, learning the playbook, learning the coaches and how they expect you to do things, getting in the training room with these guys. I think you're better off doing that than just coming in August for fall camp. And Mikey Keene, that's a good name, the quarterback. And you'd love to have as much experience as you can back there for him, because we're now thin at quarterback. So we've got Dylan Gabriel, we got the other Arizona kid, and now we've got this one. So and Quadri Jones. But yeah, good for these guys. I'm glad we got that many in, and hopefully they can get enough work in. I'm sure they're still doing some COVID restrictions and may not be able to work as much as they can in other years, but better than waiting all the way until August to get them in.
Yeah, I think you totally made that side up, but I think it feels right that guys who get in early, you have a better chance of contributing. I think that the 2 things that stick out to me: 3 receivers, Jalen Griffin and Kadeen Robinson, are both junior college guys who are coming in, and obviously Brandon Johnson, the grad transfer from Tennessee. So 3 receivers getting in early. Obviously, receiver Mike is a position we got hit hard. We got 2 DBs in this group. Obviously, we're losing some depth on DB, and then we got 2 guys on the line, and Gill and Hundley, 2 guys that we were both excited about in recruiting. I think they both had some significant offers. I think Hundley committed to LSU, if I remember that correctly, and flipped at the last minute. So hopefully some big boys down there that can fortify the line play as well. And this Cole Joyce, Mike, I think you talked about him a few different times. Linebacker at Arkansas, fast kid, speedy kid. Obviously, we'll see how that fits in our linebacker scenarios. But good to have those kids on campus, and hopefully, they're working hard, training hard, and still no update on what the spring game and all that stuff will look like. But hopefully, those guys get a chance to get some run in there, and we'll see some of those future nights out on the field at that point in time. Mike, let's take a quick pause here. And the basketball team played, and that's pretty much where it all ended. Break time. We're back. All right, back on the hardwood for another game, Mike. Obviously, UCF had been on pause. A lot of issues with cancellations and postponements and all this stuff as UCF adhered to COVID protocols. Obviously, we don't know for sure who had one on the team, but obviously the team was forced to sit out a couple of games. We saw the game against Houston. That did not go well, but UCF finally back at home. Like they welcomed SMU to Addition Financial Arena on Saturday, and first home game in almost like a month, like 3 weeks to a month here. And things started off well, Mike. We were up 1 at halftime, 33-32. A lot of hustle, a lot of energy. guys playing really well. And then Darius Perry obviously played really well. And then second half came Mike, and the wheels fell off. UCF losing again, 78-65, dropping their record to 3-6 and 1-5 in conference. Not boding well, Mike, for postseason tournament play, whatever that might look like. Start off good, and then just second half, everything just sort of unraveled.
Oh no, we suck again. Yeah, I don't know what to say about these guys anymore. We knew this was going to be a tough stretch, and we're going through it, and there doesn't seem to be an end in sight right now. You know, you said we played well in the first half, or at least well enough to have the lead. And what happened to us defensively in the second half, giving up 46 points? I don't know. We have no answers for Davis, their guard, who put up 21 points. We actually out-rebounded them by 2. But once again, 11 turnovers. That's something that's killed us all year. And just guys coming out cold. Isaiah Adams, 1 for 5 from 3. Darren Green, 1 for 5 from 3. That's not going to cut it. So the season is spiraling out of control quickly, and I don't know what we need to do to turn it around. We're 3-6 now. After we were 3-1?
Yes.
Yes. 5-game losing streak, and the losses are getting uglier by the day.
Yeah, I mean, they killed us in the paint, Mike. They had 42 points in the paint. I mean, they just had a couple big guys. A guy whose name I can't pronounce, Anai or Ane, I think his name is. And then they had Cheragois. Both those guys just got on the block, and we couldn't move them anywhere around. Obviously, we don't play with a ton of size down low. Jamil Reynolds really the only, I guess, big man type size. Adams and Walker are both, tall and long, but surely don't have the frame to bang with the big boys down there for too long. And so they just killed us on the inside. We had 22 points in the paint. They had 42. I mean, they didn't shoot as many threes, but they shot well. They shot 40%, like 6 of 15 total. So they took good shots, and high percentage shots, and they made, almost half of them from 3, which is tough. So if you're gonna own us down low, and then you're gonna be able to hit the 3 ball in timely fashion, and then they shot 94% from the free throw line. I mean, that's just a recipe for us to potentially lose the game, Mike. But we are just so stagnant on half court offense. It's like they don't even really know what to run. You see a lot of guys just kind of calling for a screen on one end and sort of passing around. We don't have any guys who can break you down off the dribble and get into the paint, or use that high ball screen to turn the corner and get a matchup down low, or get somebody open on the wing. It just seems like we're passing, we're outside, and then we're waiting for a guy to make a move or try to make a cut, and we're jacking up a bad shot at the end. It just seems like there's no flow, no rhythm to the offense. I mean, I'm sure some of that has to do with the lack of practice, Mike, but it just seems like we just don't quite know how to break the offense down, and we just pass around the perimeter and chuck up a shot and hope it goes in. And obviously, spoiler alert, it hasn't.
No, we put up 22 3-pointers, only hit 36%. Not great. Mahan actually hit 4 of 7 of his. This is his best offensive performance in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
but still not good enough. The offense is what the offense is, and these guys have to be exhausted. We have 6 guys that pretty much played the whole game, and then you got 2 guys that got some minutes. Mobley only played 13 minutes. Was he in foul trouble early in this game?
No, he only had 1 personal foul.
Yeah, so I don't know what Dawkins is doing here with the rotation of this team. Reynolds is the other guy that only got 8 minutes. So, we still have guys. I guess not the COVID thing, or else we probably wouldn't be allowed to play.
Yeah, this is our rotation. We were always going 7-8 deep. This is the rotation.
No faith in Doumbia, I guess.
He did not play. I don't know. He was a DNP at coaches or personal decision. I'm not sure what his deal was, but he was not available to play.
So, I mean, this explains why we're fighting hard in the first half, and then we're running out of gas in the second half. It's that simple. We don't have the depth to compete with these teams. SMU is a good team. They're 8-2. Memphis is a decent team. Houston's a very good team. We can't compete with these teams for 40 minutes, plain and simple. We were barely hanging in against Temple, and they're not even good.
And to be fair, we'd have been sunk in that first half without Darius Perry. He came in He did not start. He came in off the bench. I think they were trying to manage his minutes a little bit coming off of a quarantine or COVID situation. And he actually was a spark in the first half that kind of kept us in it. He was really the only guy who could break his defender down off the dribble and get towards the rim and get a shot off or two. He obviously hasn't met a shot he didn't like. He shot 5 or 12 from the field. But he was really aggressive in the first half and was single-handedly moving things around. Second half, obviously, the game, I think, got away. But Darren Green took 8 shots, Mike. One of 5 from 3. I mean, we've got to find ways to get him more looks. Isaiah Adams went 4 of 12. CJ Walker actually played okay offensively. He had 10 points. That's his highest productivity total in probably the last, I don't know, like month to 6 weeks. So he played okay, but he still just has a very raw offensive game. I mean, there's one time he put his head down and got to the hole, which was great. But Brandon Mahan, Mike, I think it was Trace who asked Johnny Dawkins before the game, what does Mahan have to do? And I thought Johnny's answer was really interesting. He basically said, like, he's never had to be the man before, and I'm not sure he can. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing. I'm sure he said it better than that. But, I mean, he basically kind of said, hey, he was a hot guy, and he was marked, and now he doesn't maybe know how to react and how to play like that. So just a lot of things in flux right now. You got to wonder what it's going to take to get everybody kind of back on page, if it's going to be more practice time, if it's going to be the ability just to get in more games. But right now, obviously, it's starting to really roll downhill, and you kind of wonder where that light's going to come at the end of the tunnel.
We're a last place team right now. We're in dead last, 1-5 in the conference, with not much hope. We play East Carolina as our next game.
Yep.
They're 1-4, so maybe if we win this one, we can get out of the cellar at least, and maybe build from there. But for the season, man, I'm not seeing much, because after that East Carolina game, we have a tough stretch again at Wichita and 2 games at Memphis before playing Tulsa, who's a very tough game, and then Wichita again. So it's not getting any easier here as the season goes on. These guys need to snap out of it somehow. Usually you can depend on Dawkins' team to play tough defense and get through some of these stretches and maybe fight out a win here or there. Hasn't been the case. The offense has struggled. The defense hasn't been able to pick them up. So, I don't know, man. We haven't won a game since the night of the Boca Bowl. We say that every episode now.
Yeah.
It's been a full month.
Yep. And
we don't get one here on Wednesday. And the season's basically over.
I mean, if you want to look at some encouraging side, I mean, the kids are fighting hard, Mike. I think they're playing hard. I think there certainly isn't a lack of effort and anyone kind of giving up out there. It's just, to your point, we don't have the bodies, I think, to compete against some of these teams every night. I mean, SMU played 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 guys. So we don't have really the bodies and we don't have the size. So there's big people down low. I mean, Walker or Adams or Reynolds and Spot Dooney, Mobley. Those guys are trying to keep up with those big guys down low. And not only are you going to be tired, but having to battle guys for rebounds and box out after a while. I mean, that's just physically taxing. And then you couple that with the fact that Brandon Mahan had a tweet, or maybe it was an Instagram story post, where basically was like, "Chill, y'all. We've been in quarantine for like 2 weeks." Basically was saying, "Hey, we haven't been playing, we haven't been practicing." So, we'll see if we can see improvement as the season goes on, Mike. I mean, these kids are fighting hard. It seems like such a fun team. It could be a fun team. A lot of guys you want to root for. And we'll see where kind of things shake out. But certainly we are arrow pointing down at this point. But let's keep the faith. You never know what can happen. Speaking of you never know what can happen, Mike, we don't know what's going to happen on the show next. So we're going to play a commercial here. And after that, I have no idea what you're going to hear. But whatever it is, I promise you, it'll be good. Don't go anywhere. Why would you want to now? Suns UCF.
The Suns have a new interview. Listen up.
All right, for the interview this week, we don't do much bragging around here. Maybe we should brag more. I don't really know. But I think, Mike, keep me honest on this one. I feel like we're the only UCF podcast that had a one-on-one interview with Danny White. Do you think that's right?
I probably not the person to ask. If we could ask Koff-Seg advisor, I'm sure he knows for sure.
Yeah.
But I do listen to a bunch of podcasts, and I haven't heard him on.
I feel like I would have remembered that if he was on one-on-one. Now, I know he's been in group settings and things like that, media scrum, so maybe I'm missing something. But this was back. I don't even remember what episode this was. 36, I think, Mike. I'm asking you like you know. Hold on a second. I've got a master list here of all the episodes. I was right. Episode 36. Our beloved UCF Mike here went down to Fort Lauderdale, which is not very far because he lives there, by the way, and got I don't know, about 5-6 minutes or so with then UCF Athletic Director Danny White, and a wide-ranging conversation where you hear Mike book some future basketball dates, maybe foreshadow some stuff with his brother. Talk about the TV contract, which was a big deal back then, which probably ended up being one of the reasons why Danny had to leave here, because that TV contract was not a lot of money, even though Danny puts on a brave face and says that it was. But our very own UCF Mike caught up with Danny White. This is circa 2019-ish. Yeah, right? I think I got that right. Early 2019. So our own Mike caught up with Danny White, and again, an homage to Danny. Let's let you hear back on that conversation. Here is UCF Mike and Danny White.
All right, this is UCF Mike here from the Sons of UCF, and I got Athletic Director Danny White here with me, and I'm just going to ask a few questions here. So, Danny White, first thing I wanted to ask you. I know that you've said many times that the White family is trying to avoid playing each other in many sports, but now that we have this series going with your brother Brian at FAU, and we just played your dad over at Duke, is there any chance you think we can maybe get a game going with your brother Mike over there with the Gators?
I don't know. You know, we try to avoid it. The FAU series I inherited, but it's. There's no winning that in our at the Thanksgiving table, and I think that most people in this profession, that whether it's a sibling or someone that you're close with, you really don't want to play them if you can avoid it.
How's your mom take those situations?
She hates it when we play each other. It's not good for anybody when we play each other.
All right, so that Duke game must have been very stressful for everybody, huh?
It was, yeah, no question.
All right, but let me ask you this: the new deal that we signed, the AAC and the SEC, with the basketball challenge that they have coming on, are you guys going to have any choice, or is the conference is kind of just going to determine who plays who?
That'll be the conference, and we might face them in the NCAA tournament down the road, or things that we can't control. I'm sure we'll end up playing them at some point, but scheduling a series is a different thing.
All right.
So yeah, maybe I guess there's a possibility we could face them in the SEC AAC challenge.
Yeah, that would be very cool.
Yeah.
Another question I had: down here in South Florida, there's a basketball tournament called the Orange Bowl Classic that goes on every year.
Yep.
And the last time UCF was involved, I believe, was 2010. Any chance we can get back into rotation in that tournament and give our South Florida fans down here a chance to see the Knights up close in person?
Yeah, I like the idea of that. Well, we can explore that. It's easy travel for us, and I know we have so many alumni in the area, so yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense for us.
All right, I think we played Miami last time, and we beat them. And I was at it was a great game.
Yeah.
I know the Gators are in it every year. I think Florida State sometimes is in it. So it'd be great to just get back into that rotation if we could.
Yeah, no question.
The release of the new AAC TV contract. What are your favorite parts about that? What do you think are the best parts of that deal?
Yeah, I think it's good to present stability for the conference. We having the opportunity to stay with the worldwide leader and having just unbelievable exposure has a ton of value for us. I try to defer to our conference leadership and Mike Oresco to talk in specifics about the deal, but I think that it's a nice positive step for us as a conference. We're a really young conference, but we've shown that we've far out performed, I think, what anybody could have expected in our first 5 years, and I'm proud of the role that UCF has played in that charge.
What do you say to the fans that are kind of concerned about having to watch the game on the internet now? A lot of the games are going to be streaming instead of on TV.
I think that we'll have more opportunities for primetime, major platform national linear television stations. I'm actually looking forward to having an ESPN Plus instead of maybe a lower profile linear channel where we can't control game time. Certainly when you can get on a major national linear platform, then any game time I'm happy with. Some I'm happier with than others, but when we're on a linear station that you're not really picking up a whole lot of fans outside of our core fans anyways. I think I'd rather be streaming and pick a game time that really works for our fans. And that what I'm describing is probably more relevant in men's and women's basketball. With the success of our football program, I think we're going to have mostly some pretty high-profile television spots.
Well, it's been almost 2 months since that Duke game. I still haven't recovered from it. I don't know how you're doing, but how has that impacted the trajectory of the basketball program since that day? And you and your dad still talk about that game?
We do not talk about it. It's a painful loss. One of the hardest losses I've ever been a part of. But I think it showed that you could do it at UCF. And we're showing that across all sports, all 16 sports. You can win at a high level. We're not just a one-trick pony. We're not just going to be a football program. We're going to be a well-rounded athletic department, one of the top in the country. And getting to the NCAA tournament as an at-large in both men's and women's basketball was a big deal. It was a big step in our growth. And obviously the way we performed made a huge impression on, I think, the college basketball fans nationally.
Well, on our show, we have a little fun sometimes.
All right.
And this last couple years have been magical. Really, the job you've done has been incredible.
Thank you.
And really, you could make a movie about all the stuff that UCF has gone through, right? So, if you could pick somebody to play Danny White in UCF the movie, what actor would it be?
Place? Wow. That's an odd question. So somebody...
I'm going to tell you who I had playing you?
Who do you got?
I think I had, I think it was Clooney. Well, now I'm drawing a blank. It was either Clooney or Pitt. It was one of those guys.
Yeah. I don't know. You know what? Why don't we make it a comedy? How about Will Ferrell?
All right. Will Ferrell. The UCF student athletes have received more accolades, and we just got recognized for more stuff recently for classroom success. What have you and your coaches done to emphasize the academic success as being part of the UCF athletes' experience at UCF?
Yeah, we haven't even announced it yet, but we just got our 23rd straight semester of student-athlete GPA above 3.0, and it was one of our 5 highest. I just learned this morning. We finished with a 3.24 for our overall student-athlete GPA. We've had 2 programs, women's tennis and football, were both in the top 10% in the country for academic progress rate, APR, and so it's what we talk about with our men and women is we want competitive people, which means I want you to care about whether we win or lose in your sport. I want you to care about competing for a championship, invest everything you got to make that happen. And you can't decide when you're going to turn that on and off. So that means we need to compete in the classroom every single day. And we preach that all the time. When I get in front of our teams, I talk about what the team GPA is, and are you bringing it up or are you bringing it down? So we want that competitive culture. That's I think have been a big part of our success so far, but we're just getting started. We're expecting that the more we breathe this competitive culture, the more I think these student athletes are going to continue to impress us.
Well, Danny, thank you so much for taking your time out to join me.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for being here. You're doing a great job.
Got the Atlantic Ocean right here.
Yeah, this is my backyard. Welcome to my home. If you need any restaurant suggestions, I know you guys are going to be here for a little while. I'll be glad to help you out. And,
awesome.
Thanks again.
All right, so obviously Danny spoke. He's gone, and we're moving on, although we're kind of not moving on. But one of the interesting things about it, Mike, is the person who has to make the hire for the next AD at UCF is Alexander Cartwright, the president of UCF. And I have no idea what goes into that, but we are fortunate enough, Mike. We actually had, not only did we have the former athletic director of UCF on, we had the former president of UCF on as well. Dale Whitaker joined us. This was back in episode number 76, I think, Mike. Do I have that right? I don't have that right. 84, just kidding. Episode 84, Dale Whitaker joined us. And obviously he was Danny White's boss. He did not hire Danny directly. That was President Hitt. But Dale obviously worked at UCF under President Hitt, so familiar with that. And I thought this was kind of telling. You want to think about the impact that Danny had on UCF, and kind of what he meant to the school and how unique he was. We had a chance to ask Dale Whitaker a couple questions and get his thoughts on Danny White. And I just want to play his commentary back, because I think as we're trying to put into perspective what Danny meant to UCF and the things he did, maybe Dale Whitaker sums it up better than any of us. So former UCF president Dale Whitaker joined us, and here were his thoughts on Danny White.
So you're in control of the entire university, but what is your actual role with the sports? Do you just delegate the AD to do his job and you kind of trust him to do what he does?
I got got to say it depends on the AD. And with Danny White, the answer would be yes. He's got so much wisdom and innovation and insight that that wasn't a hard thing to do. And it's true with any leadership position. You don't micromanage unless you see a need to make suggestions or correct course. So with Danny, my job with him was to have his back and to support him and to be there, when he needed me for fundraising or anything else. So have Danny's back and give him support and let him run.
Well, you mentioned working with Danny White, and I think it's no disrespect to some of the individuals that came before him, but the sports program and the athletic department at UCF really took off when he got on campus, and obviously you kind of mentioned some of the things that he brought from a leadership standpoint, but you had a chance to work with Danny White closely. Just how special is he as a leader, as a visionary? How impressive is he to kind of be around and get a chance to work with day in and day out?
And just incredibly. Let me tell you one thing that I think really helps answer that question. At UCF, the AD is part of the president's cabinet, and the cabinet is a group of half a dozen to a dozen people who really have the responsibility to move the university forward. It's not always that way at other universities. As a member of the cabinet, Danny knew everybody else's priorities and agenda, always supported them, and always had ideas for them. And I think that tells you how special he is. Not only did he do his job well, he cared about the whole university and helping other people succeed.
So just to follow up on that, it's unique to have the AD as part of that president's council?
Probably not unique, but it's not. It is unusual. I'll say it that way. You see a lot of universities where the AD is not a vice president, is not part of the cabinet. Yeah. But another thing about Danny is it's in his DNA. It's a family thing. He grew up in athletics, and I said often to my wife Mary, Danny has wisdom well beyond his years, and I think he inherited some of that and earned some of that.
Well, one of the things that Danny did that gets him some attention, both positive and negative, is the self-proclaimed quote unquote national championship decree after the Peach Bowl win. I know you were essentially just in the on deck circle to become the president at that point. What were your thoughts of that declaration? And as president of the school, how did you guys have conversations about how you would support that claim and any of the backlash that might come from that?
Yeah, I thought it was sassy. I thought it was gutsy. It shows how special Danny is. It was a highly a gutsy move. But what Danny was doing, and what I fully supported, was move a conversation forward that just wasn't moving about the Power 5 conference, about the college football playoffs. And the people on the inside of that aren't going to move that conversation forward. It doesn't benefit them. And if you're on the outside, how do you break in? And I think that was a really gutsy move that got a lot of attention, positive and negative. But UCF, if you just look at the number of times that those words were heard on ESPN and other places, it really moved the needle forward for UCF athletics.
I'm Jeff Allen. Join me each week for unique yet common sense opinions on sports on the Jeff Allen Sports Talk Podcast. We will break down the sports world minus the hot takes with prominent guests and my stable of sports guys. It's sports conversation the way it should be. Search Jeff Allen Sports Talk wherever you get your podcasts or go to jeffallensportstalk.com.
This is UCF Athletic Director Danny White, and if you don't want to be the cow of the week, you need to listen to Adam and Mike on the Sons of UCF. Charge on, go Knights!
All right, for For the final time, Mike, we have a dilemma off the bat. So this is Cow of the Week, by the way, as you heard. But what you heard was that the person who has been introducing you to Cow of the Week for, I don't even really know, Mike, probably a little over a year, probably longer than that, actually. He's been the sounding intro to Cow of the Week, and he introduced himself as UCF Athletic Director Danny White. And if you don't want to be the Cow of the Week, blah, 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 blah. Well, this is an homage to Danny. It's the last time we're going to play the Danny White Cow of the Week intro. We felt like we owed him the respect of one final play, one final spin here. And so the Danny White Cow of the Week sound officially retired. But that means we need a new Cow of the Week voice. So we need ideas. We need suggestions. Who you got? Who can we get? Right answers, wrong answers, funny answers, whatever you got. You tell us who you think the new Cow of the Week voice will be, and Mike and I will turn every stone over to try to get that person, Mike. I had one vote, but I don't know if it'll work out. I definitely know who I'd like to try to get, but I think it's going to be really hard to get this person. So I have somebody in mind. Do you have anybody in mind that you want us to consider?
Yeah, the White Horse.
Oh, okay.
Well, don't be a cow, be a white horse.
Ooh.
George O'Leary, something to that effect.
Okay.
That would be a good one. I haven't really thought about it too much. I told you my idea for Maury.
Yeah.
You are not the Cow of the Week.
Yeah.
Who's your guy? Do you want to share it with me now?
I do. I will tell you. And this is going to be really outside the box, Mike. I'd like to go for Matt Grothy.
But how are we going to get him to do it?
That's the problem. That's the problem. We, oddly enough, we probably have a better chance of getting Maury Povich than Matt Grothy, which would just seem ironic in some respects. But who better than the ultimate cow to be the Cow of the Week voice? And then we would just play, we'd have to boo over it and just play the cow noise. You'd basically never hear his voice, but you'd know it was him, and we would continue to heckle him week over week.
Yeah, like 2 years ago when we first started the podcast, I had the idea of calling Grothy, pretending to be a South Florida podcast, and getting him to interview that way, and then just throwing Al Bundy jokes in his face or something for like 20 minutes until he hung up on us.
Well, two things with that. One, you do that. You come up with that idea like every 6 months. You bring that idea back. And two, there's no cow podcast, so he's never going to fall for that. Although he's a cow,
No, there is
so
a
maybe
cow podcast.
There can't be a cow podcast. Really?
There is a cow podcast.
People listen to it?
The Stampede, I think. The Daily Stampede.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah, they actually did it. Remember when we did Jeopardy? You know how I know this? Because the guy that listens to not just our podcast, but every podcast ever made, Cost Psych Advisor, when we did our Jeopardy show, he had a link to their Jeopardy show, and the way they did it, I mean, they must have spent like days preparing for this. They had a full board and all stuff, like a full double Jeopardy. It was like a 40-minute show of just Jeopardy that these guys did.
Wow.
But yeah, the Daily Stampede, I believe it's called. I've never actually listened to it.
Yeah.
But there is one.
Oh, wow. I mean, you learn something every day. Who knew? Yeah, who knew?
Then every time we have a guest on the show, well, another thing we always say to each other is, we should get one of these guys. We should get this guy to record a line for us. Say, hey, you listen to the Sons of UCF, and we never. I mean,
we never do.
We've never remembered to ask that person.
How does that happen?
Where they hang up when we say goodbye, they actually hang up and they'll stick around, and we never ask them. We never do it up front. I don't know. The only time we got those sounds is that time I made Heupel and Danny White do it. That time I saw them down in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, and they have no idea that we use them. I don't think. The other, Matt Grothy was one. The other one I had. You want to hear my second option? Is Jeff Godfrey, who famously, if you've been following along, we booked him to show up on our live pregame show before one of the games this year, and he was like, "Cool, call me up. I'm ready to go," and everything. And so, day comes. I think I even texted him that morning and said, "Hey, you still good?" And he was like, "Yep, can't wait." And then, he's supposed to log on at a certain time, and we're waiting, nothing. I text him, nothing. I call, nothing. Sent him a message on social media, nothing. And so Jeff Godfrey never showed up. So he could say, hey, don't be like me and stand these guys up, because that might make me a Cow of the Week or something like that. I think Godfrey could be an option as well. So those are a couple that we've got, but we're open to your feedback out there. Who do you want to see as the new Cow of the Week voice? Obviously, Mike and I will do all we can to try to get that person to voice said Cow of the Week sounder, but you never really know. In the interim, I'll probably just go back to the old cow voice. But we need some help. So get at us on Twitter at Sons of UCF or at UCF Mike 1. Tell us who we should pick, Mike.
Godfrey, to give him some credit, he was our first ever player interview we had on this show. And then this year when we were doing the pregame shows, we kept getting a bunch of guests every week, and we never promoted them. You had a superstition of not wanting to reveal who we had coming on.
Yep.
And the one week I was like, screw this, man. We're getting Godfrey. He said definitely he's coming on. The night before, I started posting Godfrey pictures. Godfrey's coming on the show. I figured people would get excited. And there was the one guy that stood us up.
Yes.
So it would be cool to get Godfrey on the show again. And to have that sounder, that'd be nice. But now I guess we got to go back to, what do we used to have? Announcer girl?
It was announcer girl, and then I played, I think, a cow noise. Actually, it was announcer girl. I think it was my kids in the background, too, for a while. I think they were mooing in the background. So we got to come up with something. Maybe we'll, I don't know, maybe we can ask.
How about a contest? We can have a different cow of the week intro every week.
I'm open to a fan. I'm open to a fan entry as well. You know what I mean? If someone wants to audition for it, maybe they've got a sound they want to use. They've got a song they want to sing. I mean, I would take a Levitard type, song cow of the week if someone's willing and they got the talent to put that together.
Ooh,
the long version.
That's asking a lot, but that would be cool.
Yeah, that's asking a whole lot. So I don't know if anybody out there is musically inclined. Or can put something together, but this could be your claim to fame. I can't get you American Idol, but I can get you Cow of the Week.
That would be awesome. A song would be great, and that could live on for a long time, longer than the Danny White one, which we had for a couple of years now.
Yes. All right. Well, so that's our dilemma. So our faithful goodbye to the Danny White Cow of the Week sounder. You served us well, my friend. You served UCF well, but we are now going to retire you into podcast sound infamy, and we'll move on. But the Cow of the Week continues, Mike. That's when we pick something that annoyed us, irritated us, or was just plain outright funny. And you get to kick off as always, my friend. What do you got?
All right, Cow of the Week this week. Danny White for leaving UCF.
Here we go.
Screw this guy. Just kidding. Wish him the best of luck. I'm going to go with head coach of the Green Bay Packers, Matt LaFleur, for his decision at the end of the game, down by 8 in the fourth quarter, just over 2 minutes to go, deciding to kick a field goal when you have Aaron Rodgers and it's 4th and goal, and basically give the ball back to Tom Brady where you're never going to see the ball back again anyway. I think the game was pretty much over anyway, because not only does Rodgers have to score there, they have to get the 2-point conversion, and then they have to stop Brady anyway, which we knew wasn't going to happen. But what was his decision there? I kind of understood it because he had the 3 timeouts, he had the 2-minute warning, so he could have stopped the clock 4 times. But I don't know. It looks like a horrible decision now afterwards, looking back on it. And Rodgers, what is he doing there? That 3rd down, he could have. I don't know if he would have scored. But yeah, a lot of room there. He had a couple steps on the guys. Yeah. He could have made the decision a lot easier to go for it. He's partly Cow of the Week too, I guess. He's 1-4 now in conference championship games. With all the talent that he has, and his team is in that game. They get blown out more times than not. Last year, the 49ers destroyed him in that game. Didn't the Falcons kick his ass in the playoffs a couple years ago too?
Seahawks.
The Giants went into allow. Yeah, that's it. So he's not looking like. I mean, he's supposed to be one of the best ever. And now Tom Brady has just as many NFC championship than he has won, and Brady's only been in the conference for 1 year. But LaFleur was decision making there at the end of the game, kicking a field goal down 8, 2 minutes to go. When you have one of the best quarterbacks ever on your team, give him a shot to throw it in the end zone and try to tie the game.
Yeah, in my estimation, I mean, I know there's a math equation involved, right? Somebody with the chart and the analytics books and all that good jazz. Here's my simpleton mind is I'm losing, and I'm either going to go down with my best player with the ball in his hands, or I'm going to go down trying to stop the greatest quarterback of all time on defense. Those are your 2 options. I'd rather have the ball in my hands to be able to dictate what's going to happen versus hoping that we can get a stop against Brady. Now, I know Brady wasn't playing fantastic. He had 3 interceptions. 2 of them were just terrible interceptions where he just basically chucked the ball up into coverage. So maybe you thought you'd do something, but it's also Tom Brady. You've seen him do this, I don't know, 46 times or some ridiculous number in the playoffs. And so I get that point, but I'd rather go down swinging with my guy, my best player, with the ball in his hands to make a play. I have a damn good receiver in Devontae Adams. I know that hadn't worked out superbly well throughout the game at that point. I know Aaron Jones was injured, but give me the ball with Aaron Rodgers versus having me try to stop Tom Brady. That just I don't know if that's a math equation, Mike, but that's just how I would do the math on that one.
You know who was almost cow of the week? The kick returner for Tampa Bay. Because after they kicked that field goal, this guy, for some reason, slides with like another 6 seconds to go before the 2-minute warning. What the hell was he doing? Because he just saved Green Bay a timeout, giving them 4 stops of the clock instead of just 3 coming out of the 2-minute warning. He almost blew that game for him. But we knew Tom Brady would, even though that pass that they called pass interference on, I don't know if that thing was catchable, man. He kind of just lofted that way over his head. Could have been ruled uncatchable.
Yeah. The problem with that is that game, I don't know how much of you watched, but they were just fighting on the outside all day long. Receivers and DBs were all over each other. There was hand checking. There was quasi holds. There was guys with their arms wrapped around the other guy's waist. I mean, it was going on all game long. And so I get your point if you're frustrated that like that wasn't called all game long, and then all of a sudden at that moment you call something like that. But I think after what happened a couple of years back, and I know it was way different, where basically the Rams DB just trucked the Saints receiver and didn't get a PI call, and that sent the Rams to the Super Bowl. I feel like the NFL was just not going to let a game-deciding play go on again without a penalty flag when it was pretty obvious. So I get the point of they were just letting them play all game long, and people were just fighting and yelling and scrapping each other. But I feel like the NFL just did not want another one of those Saints-Rams deals on their hands, and because that flag came out late too. Like I was able to get up. I got up, got to the fridge, got a new beer, sat back down, and before the flag got thrown. So that thing was way, way, way late.
Yeah, that was my one gripe with it too. It was so late because you think, all right, incomplete. They're not calling it. Green Bay celebrating. Tampa's pissed, and here we go. Aaron Rodgers with one last shot. And whoa! Now here comes the flag. It was pretty late. Did the guy have a hard time taking it out of his pocket to throw it? I don't know. That thing was later than the Miami-Ohio State penalty back in 2002. But it is what it is, I guess. They got the call right. It was passing. Well, it was defensive holding,
yes,
for sure.
Yes.
Pass interference, I don't know because, like I said, I don't know if that ball was catchable.
Yeah. Well,
so who else could have been called?
Oh, what do you got?
Because I did watch that whole game, and you know how many commercial breaks there were in that game? I guess it's standard, but I actually know the exact number because I didn't drink during this game, right? I didn't drink on Sunday. So instead, I tried to turn the game into exercise, right?
Don't bury the lead there. What happened there?
I don't know. I had some drinks on Saturday, and I didn't want to do Sunday. So anyway, I figured, let me get a little workout in. I didn't really get a workout in on Sunday. I said I'm going to do 10 push-ups and 10 bodyweight squats every time they go to commercial. And I kept track. 23 commercial breaks during that game, 230 push-ups, 230 squats. It's not bad when you space it out over like 4.5 hours. I wasn't really getting tired or anything.
Sure.
Only 10 at a time. But, man, it made me realize how many freaking commercials there are in a football game. By the end of the first quarter, I had already done 50 push-ups. Wow. It's too much, man.
Yeah.
After everything, there's a score commercial. There's a kickoff commercial. Then 2-minute warning, a timeout. You don't realize how many times they actually go to commercial during a football game. They talk about baseball teams shorten the game. I don't mind. I'll watch a football game if it's 8 hours, especially if it's my team. But it's a little ridiculous. And the Super Bowl is going to be even worse. Right? There's probably going to be like 30 commercial breaks during that thing.
Yeah, who you got? Tampa and Kansas City. In Tampa, the first ever home team Super Bowl, I guess, if that's the way to phrase it. Your early victor is who?
Well, if you listened to my Cow of the Week segment last week, I am not betting against Tom Brady. I will not make that mistake. I know everybody is coming out picking the Chiefs right away. The Chiefs are going to have the best team, and Mahomes is the greatest quarterback there is right now. But I don't bet against Tom Brady. It's going to be a close game. Just like every Brady Super Bowl seems to be come down to the wire. And if he has the ball in his hands at the end, I give him a good shot to win. I don't know. I don't really care who wins. I just want to see a close game. But I guess I'll root for Brady a little bit just to continue the greatness and continue the legend that is.
Yeah, it's funny. I never rooted for the Patriots. I don't know if it was the Belichick thing, but I found myself yesterday rooting for Tom Brady to pull it out. I don't really know why. I actually like Aaron Rodgers. I think he's a funny guy. I think he's a good dude. So I actually but found myself rooting for Brady at the end. So I think I may root Tampa and Brady, even though I never really ever rooted for him throughout my career, throughout his career or mine. I think I may go Brady too. I don't know what's going on here. I'm not sure what's happening.
I think you're lying. You probably rooted for Brady against the Giants and the Eagles, didn't you?
That's a good point. Yeah, those ones I just watched.
And those are the times he actually lost.
And those are the ones I just watched in horror because I was like, why are the Giants in the Super Bowl again? Eagles, yeah, I guess Nick Foles. What are you gonna do? That's fair, yeah. But that was like a one moment game. Like I've just never been a Brady fan. I kind of hope those games just all ended in ties, and they never did, which sucks. But yeah,
you always rooted for Peyton Manning over him.
Yeah, I think it did. Yeah, I think it did. I always thought Peyton was funnier. Seemed like a nicer dude.
See, once the Giants beat the Patriots, then I always rooted for the Patriots because I always wanted to just be the only ones that beat the Patriots. And then the freaking Eagles had to do it, and the Eagles I hate more than anybody. But, I root for Brady, I guess. I'll root for him over Mahomes. Everybody, I guess Mahomes is very good. I understand it. But everybody's already crowning this guy as the greatest of all time. He's only been doing it for a few years. So calm down, and I hope Tom actually ends up beating him.
Mike is not here for your crowning. All right, my cow of the week. I'm going to go with our good friend. I think this guy's been cow of the week before, Mike. ESPN, I'll call him analyst, Mr. Booger McFarland. He of the every time UCF's national championship came up, I believe he rolled his eyes on TV one time. I believe he said something to the effect of, I only talk about Power 5 programs. And I think he's down-talked UCF at every turn he could. And then, Mike, as soon as Danny White was hired as AD at Tennessee, Mr. Booger McFarland was all on Twitter saying, great hire by Tennessee. Danny White's a great athletic director. Hold on. Let me get this straight. You wanted nothing to do with UCF. We were too small and minor in your eyes. You couldn't even be bothered to think about us. But as soon as our AD is hired, you're like, perfect hire. And I'm sure Booker's not alone for all the Danny White's an idiot for the national championship stuff, and Danny White is making a mistake on the 2-for-1 deals and blah 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 blah. I mean, I couldn't find a single person out there, Mike, and I didn't do a ton of searching, so perhaps that's the problem here. That said, this was a bad hire from Tennessee. Universally across the board, everybody was like, great hire, great ID. This is going to be perfect. Such an innovator, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to go out on the limb and say that these are some of the same people who mocked a lot of the things that Danny did and mocked a lot of the things that UCF was about. So it's just funny how getting that P5 label on you all of a sudden, makes you into a star when he was probably already a star to begin with, Mike. So all of those people out there, I'm back in my Shannon Sharp. I want my restitution for all the people who were who always given us a ton of grief for everything, and all of a sudden, as soon as Danny leaves, what a great hire that was. So all those people, including you, Mr. Booger McFarland, you can line up for Cow of the Week.
It's kind of like the recruiting sites where somebody's committed to UCF and they're a 3-star, and then all of a sudden they decommit, they go somewhere else to a P5 school, and now they're a 4-star kind of thing. Everybody's saying great things about them. I haven't seen, has Feinbaum come out and said anything about the hire to Tennessee? Because he's a big SEC guy.
Yeah.
And we know all the crap that he gave UCF back in 2017 and 18. That'd be probably pretty funny to look at now. McFarland's just an idiot. I don't know what else to say about this guy. He's put his foot in his mouth a bunch of times now about UCF, and now the truth comes out where he says what a great hire it was for Danny White. I don't know. I don't put stock into anything these talking idiots say on TV, which is why I really don't watch any of those shows, and I don't plan on watching. So the only time I actually see these clips of what they say is when people post them on Twitter. And then people go nuts about him, but I don't waste my time with him.
Yeah, I'm looking at Feinbaum's Twitter. Nothing about about Danny White specifically. It looks like he maybe talked about it on the show today, but I'm not gonna listen to his show. So, it's just, again, I want my restitution. Everybody again lined up to make fun of UCF, to laugh, to poke fun at everything that UCF was doing and was trying to do, and then all of a sudden Danny White's the best hire ever. So my restitution will be had courtesy of Mr. Shannon Sharp, Mike. But I guess that's the last Danny White Cow of the Week segment. Kind of sad.
Yeah. Well, it was bound to end sometime, and one day we're gonna have to get a new hypo one.
He doesn't really have a He doesn't. Well, that's fair. He doesn't really have a segment though. You know what I mean? I just kind of use him wherever I need to. We also have the Eric Kohler one, who's no longer really announcing games, but that's kind of a legacy thing, I guess. So either what I've learned here is we need a bunch of new sounders, and or we need Hypo to stick around just so I don't have to get a new one of those.
All right, so we need to come up with some ideas, and we need to start doing some new interviews and asking people to record something for us. Or we can go back to our bag of friends that we have here, and all the guys we've talked to before, and ask them to do a quick little favor for us. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Not sure why our friends are in a bag, but either way, we will we'll certainly do something, and we'll find a new Cat of the Week voice, Mike. And hey, don't forget, if you're listening to this now, Thursday night, Mike, we debuted the Sons of UCF Live edition, which now features our good buddy, Mr. Trace Trelko. We had planned this in advance. We were going to do a Thursday night. So we had a whole rundown, and then that all got scrapped. So I think we're going to try this thing again. We'll try to do a Thursday night regular deal for everybody, a place for us to get a chance to connect with Trace again a little bit and get a sense for what's on his mind. He's got the availability to be a part of some of these press conferences, and he's in and around some of the teams that are playing right now, basketball, volleyball, so he's got some insight he'll share with you there. We'll try to find some cool guests, and we'll do some fun stuff as always. Hopefully we don't have major breaking news every week, but make sure you're following us on Twitter, on Facebook, and then our YouTube channel. All of that is Sons of UCF. And when you're there and we go live on Thursdays, or any day for that matter, you will get notified and you will get to watch us in all our glory, Mike. I thought the show went really good. Watching it back a little bit, I've got to work on my lighting. I've got this giant light in my face. I didn't really enjoy what that looked like, so I've got to work on my lighting. But all in all, I think the live show went well, and we enjoyed spending some time with Jason Beatty and Chris Vanini, and then obviously I didn't know those rhymed until I just did that, and then Trace Trelko as well.
You know, when we set up these live shows every time we do them, the pregame or whatever, you're always making fun of me for setting up my thing with the lights and all that stuff. And here you go.
Yeah.
You need to do a better job with your lighting.
Yeah. Taste my own medicine. Yeah. Taste my own medicine.
Yeah, it's been fun. You call it the Soul Show. I didn't even think about that. The Sons of UCF Live.
Yeah.
Soul.
Well, I figured. So at some point, we did not do it this week. There was a little bit of a technical difficulty, but we'll probably release some of these as standalone podcasts as well, in case you can't join us live, or you're not going to be in front of a computer or your phone for the replay, so you can download and listen, as you normally would. So to differentiate between them, I'll probably just name what the live ones as Soul. That way you'll know which ones are the live sort of replays, and you'll know which ones are the regular podcast edition. So you're clued in on the inside now.
We got all kinds of shows. What happened to our Partly Sunny shows? We did that. We did one of those.
We did.
That was just like a midweek show.
That was just we got Mike Golick and didn't know what to do about it, so we made up a show, and we talked about doing that, maybe a Partly Sunny here and there, a Partly Sunny throwback edition for some of the old interviews that we've done back in the day that maybe have disappeared from your podcast feed, bringing some of those back. So we got a lot of stuff to do around here. We're also very lazy on execution at times. So stick with us. We'll get it all figured out. But your support is appreciated as always. For those of you who download, subscribe, rate, review each and every week, you guys are the best. Do us a favor. Tell a friend, though. Grab one person who doesn't know about our show. There's like 300,000 UCF alum out there. So if you're one of them, call one of those who don't listen to us and tell them to do that. We'd appreciate that. We're going to try to do a contest soon with some hats. I know we said that every week, but we want to try to get some new listeners. So maybe if you can attract a new listener to us, maybe we'll figure out a way to get you a hat and that listener a hat. So we'll figure out how to make all that work. Yeah, you like that? I just made that up as I was talking. Yeah.
How many hats do you think we have?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like
there's not many. I
feel like you're like a magician. I just keep turning around. You keep pulling hats out of your bag. So we've got friends in the bag. We've got hats in the bag. So we'll get some hats to everybody out there. But we'll do some fun stuff. So stick around for all of that, Mike. And when next time we talk to you, it'll be episode number 118, and we're excited about bringing you everything that's in and around the UCF universe. Until we talk to you again, everybody be safe, be happy, be healthy, and I guess all we can tell you right now is just charge on.
Go Knights. Hey, you did it backwards.
I know. I told you. Later.